All right, man, Indian Challengers, can't get enough of them lately, right? This one's back. We did an ECU tune on this one day, and I think that was all we did to this one. We just had the ECU flash. But anyway, this one is back because the left fork is leaking. Now, this bike was brought to me maybe 6.5 hours ago, and it is already putting a puddle on my floor. So this fork seal is pretty bad. So the plan is gonna be to take that fork seal out, put a new one in. We're not gonna change out the bushings. I know, but that's what we're gonna do. It's been agreed upon. We're gonna change the fluid out, we're gonna put new seals in, only on this fork, and we'll do the bushings in both of them at a separate time. I know. Let's get to it. First thing I'm gonna do is actually move this thing back a little bit because I need space to jack this thing up. There we go. All right, next up, we gotta get this thing jacked up. Let me put it right behind the kickstand and make sure this little tab, well, this part of the crankcase rather, there's a little tab on here. And I make sure that is on there. We're going to check that we have enough on both sides. On the left side, we got the engine sitting there. We got the engine sitting right about there. We got multiple things we have to take off. We have to take off these 2 pinch bolts. That is a 6mm. We got to take off the fender. 6mm. We have to take off the axle, 14mm. We have to take off the caliper on the left. That is going to be an 8mm. And we also have to take off the bolts on the triple. And these also, I believe, are going to be a 6mm. So because this is a work night, I'm just gonna get it and go. You guys have seen me do this enough. Oh, that's not the right size. There we go. The fun part is this fender because it actually has a cable from the headdress. It follows up this wiring to inside this fender. So what we typically do, we sit it out of the way so we don't have to take the front fairing off just to get it off. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna wrap this thing up. I'm gonna put it against this. I think this might work. See if we can bungee this thing kind of out of the way. When I think about this bike and why they decided to not add a quick connect for this headlight, because it runs under here, I think from here all the way up, because on the other side that cable's for the wheel speed sensor. You have to take the front fairing off just to get to the disconnect for that. The same reason why when they designed this engine, you were originally were supposed to be able to take the head covers off and service the cams with it in the engine. with it in the frame. They designed this bike for labor hours for dealerships to be able to work on it and charge you more. That's the only reason I can think why they didn't make a quick connect for that, and why you can no longer take, or you can't take the head covers off and service the cams while the engine is in the bike versus doing some obscure way to get it out because there's not enough clearance. Yeah, totally. Came out smooth because I serviced it last. All right, we got a spacer right there that's gonna drop. Maybe I can get it out. We're not gonna tear that seal, we're just gonna roll it out. Gotta get it out of the calipers. There we go, that's one side. Got the wheel speed sensor on the other side. Just to clear it. All right, this should roll out without that fender falling. Come on. All right. Come on. There we go. Don't fall. Perfect. I always forget about these brake calipers, but they're a lot easier to break loose when you have the wheel on, because see that's gonna flex. Let's see. Come on. There we go. Perfect. These brake calipers, oh, look at all that. Hopefully these brake pads don't have, now I'm sure they do have some residue on them. They have to. Brake pads are probably barely, maybe good. We'll see. And just to show you, this isn't like rubbing too much on it, so it shouldn't damage anything. All right, there's that. Got a couple of zip ties I'll probably have to deal with. That wheel speed sensor. Okay, bummer. Okay, forgot about the wheel speed sensor. It's a little bolt on the inside. Let's put that back temporarily. Two things. One, this wheel speed sensor, it's a 5mm right there. Make sure you put that back first before you put the wheel on, otherwise, good luck. And second, that light actually does go up this side of the wire harness. These are actually, this side is actually an LED that he's run, one on each side. So there's no telling where that disconnects from. But anyway, it just makes servicing this thing a little bit more challenging. But anyway, that is clear. And now we should be able to pull this brake caliper further back. All right, so he actually has a zip tie on that. And that's also an Indian tie. I don't know if he redid that zip tie or what. Maybe that is the official Indian. No, I think that's the official Indian one. So we're gonna pull that, and that's gonna allow us to move this. I have taken a picture of this so I can remember how this routing is. And we're going to get a zip tie, go through that like that, because we don't want this to be hanging and damaged, even though these are steel braided. We don't want it damaged. Okay, that's out of the way. Now we can work on getting the fork out. Here's the interesting part. We got two triple bolts right there, no problem. One on top is right there. Carefully rotating these bars gives you access to this. Of course, making sure we're not scuffing up the fender. Oh, gotta make sure. There we go. We're fully seated in there. Having a bar with some leverage definitely helps. And we just turn it and turn it. Now, another good thing would be if we had something to get on that nut, because that nut is going to be really hard to break free. but we'll see if we can get on it at the lower triple because that bar is in the way. These on the back aren't that difficult to get to. Now, the hope, and I know it's gonna be wishful thinking, I'm hoping these just fall out, but I doubt it, because that typically doesn't happen on Indians. You have to pry them out. Before I pull these, I'm gonna put a piece of painter's tape right where these came off, so I know where the line is to put them back. And this will more likely come off, but it will give me at least a reference point. So what I'm gonna have to do is pry these out, because these Indian forks don't just fall out of their triples at all. All right, that's one. I'll be very surprised if this thing just fell out. This is very hard to see. However, from the top of that triple to about that part of the cap, it's about 3/8 of an inch. So 3/8 of an inch is what I'm gonna be looking for to put that back. Being that Indian forks don't like to easily come off, we're gonna take this and we're gonna put it in the slit on the back of this triple, and we're gonna give it a little bit of prying. That's gonna allow this thing to come out a lot easier. Using my Chief as an example, what we're doing is putting a flathead screwdriver, or in my case, this oil seal puller, in it like that, and we're just gonna pry. Just a little bit. Don't put too much on, but just enough to release the tension on that fork tube. So at this current time, there are no bolts holding this fork in here. So, oh man, there's not much room in here. I don't think I can go from the other side. So it's gonna have to be this way. Turn that way, full lock. Make sure that fender, the reason I have that there is so that fender isn't rubbing against anything. I'll scratch it. Take this. All right. Just gonna pry just a little bit. See that? It's gonna release it. Just a little bit. Clear at the top. There we go. And there's our fork. Oh, come on, give me my tool back. Don't want to scratch the radiator fins. There we go, that's a fork tube. The last part of this, we're gonna jack the bike up and sit it on the safety locks or safety tabs so the bike doesn't leak overnight and it ends up on the floor. Good news is we don't have to go super high with it. Just enough to clear that tab. There we go, it's safe. We got the fork tube and we can see right there all of that fluid. Oh man, this thing is leaking good. Now the next challenge is going to be getting this fork cap off. I wanted to get this off while it was on the bike because I could have locked it in a triple, but there's not much clearance in there. So we're gonna see if we can get this thing off. You can see all of that fork fluid right there. I moved this fork cover right here. And I just pull that off. Slight little tug. See all that fork fluid. Well, it's not a lot in there. Oh, well, there it is. Yeah, it's right there. That's it's quite a bit. Yeah, and it cakes up. But that's a lot, man. Now it's time to get this fork tube apart. I've already broken the nut loose. It's only at 17 foot-pounds. If you hold it, put a 22mm socket on it, you can break this thing free. It's not under a lot of tension. But even if we take this off, we still have to compress the spring inside of here to reveal the nut that's holding the top cap. And so to do that, you can either use the manual method like I've done with the Lowrider S. It typically requires 2 people, or you can use some ratchet straps. I've actually bought this tool from Race Tech that is used for compressing springs to reveal that nut. This is also a tool that works on sport bikes as well. I went ahead and bought this tool because I also had to do the CBR forks and also the M109R forks, and they're both inverted forks. So this tool is typically for inverted forks, which this Challenger fork is. Here's a note. Yeah, this tool, the wheels on this are really bad. You can see that it's actually not straight, but whatever, it's gonna get the job done. I'll leave a link down to this thing in the description. For the Challenger forks, if you're just changing out the fork fluid or the seals, you do not have to take off the bolt that is holding the damper on the lower tube. We're only messing with what's in the outer tube. We don't have to mess with that because that's also can be used to drain it. So again, if you're doing the fluid and the seals, we don't have to touch anything down here. So let's see if we can get this going. Looking at this tool, man, my luck with tools has been grand lately. Look at this thing. Let's go get the job done. I hope. First thing we're gonna do is screw this cap off. And that it is an inverted fork. We don't have to worry about it like shooting off in our faces. Take this off. We're gonna drain it in this here bucket. All right. Yep. I'm gonna drain it. Oh, what's left? Wow, that's not a lot of fluid left. There wasn't a lot of fluid left in here, man. He had fluid. What's left in here is coming out of the damper. It was time for a fluid change anyway. Wasn't a lot in there, man. Wow. All right, that difference right there on top, that's where all the fork fluid that came out is. The rest of that's just regular oil, but wasn't a lot in there. All right, what we're doing right now, I'm pulling the level of this compressor up so I can align it with the top of the spring in the fork tube. And I'm going to tighten these teeth up with this little set screw, and it's gonna bite into this and compress it, exposing the bolt. It's gonna be about right here. Whoa, the way I have this rigged up, we got that tool in the vise, and we have the springs was holding it. You got one piece right there on top of that spring and one locked in right there on the top of that spring, and that locks it in. There's also a piece that goes through the bottom of that and it holds it in. Now we just need to tighten it down to expose that nut, and hopefully it does not shoot off in my face. See, watch right there. Okay. There's that. Put one on top, one on the bottom. Break this free. There we go. There we go. Now, just slowly release the pressure off this thing. You're gonna see that go up. Actually, we can take that off. And technically, the damper should, yeah, see? We're gonna release the pressure off this spring, so when I do take this off, it doesn't. I was chopping it up with my neighbor for a little bit and forgot to turn my microphone on. But anyway, after cleaning everything up, took the springs out, pulled the two tubes apart since the damper is no longer holding these together. We can actually see inside this outer tube. Actually, it's gonna be hard to see. Let me get a flashlight. We can see inside of here that we still have Teflon on the inside of that bushing. So all we're gonna do, again, we're not gonna change out the bushings. We're just gonna take these seals out. We're gonna take out the dust seal and we're gonna replace that and the internal seal, oil seal. We're gonna put it back together. Take a screwdriver. We're going to gently pry these out. Screwdriver, just there we go. That is the dust seal. And the oil seal, we're gonna have to get a seal puller. I also gotta get this snap ring out. Easy. And then I'm gonna get this seal. Gonna see if this seal puller will work. There we go. Pop it out. Shot fluid everywhere, but there's the seal. Okay, got everything out. And here is the oil seal. Now we can't say for sure if that spot right there, that little metal band being pushed out, that's where the leak was happening, because it could have been from the screwdriver that I just used to pull this out. But anyway, we're gonna put new seals in, slide back together. Because I always forget this, the marks, in this case, face the dust seal. So it's gonna go like that, where the metal band goes towards the washer and the bushings. All right, I've lubricated this. Hopefully I can get this on here without tearing it. Would be lovely. I think we might have been successful. Last but not least, we have this washer, and the machined side, the flattest part goes away from the seal. I think. I'm pretty sure that's correct. And what that looks like, so you got two edges on the seal. Sorry, washer. You got a flat edge and you have kind of a non-flat machined edge. But anyway, the flat edge goes away from the seal towards the bushings. All right, we're gonna put this back in. We're gonna start using the seal driver, get it back together. For Challenger, we're gonna be using a 43mm fork seal driver from Motion Pro. Take this, go over it like, lock it in place, and we're gonna go up like that. All right. I think that should do it. Now we're gonna take our snap ring, come down so we get that in the groove. Perfect. Perfect, man. That's what we're looking like so far. Just got to get the dust seal on, and yeah, the snap ring went in perfectly. All right, hopefully I didn't tear anything, man. I don't think I did. Hope I did. Let's see. Ooh. Okay. Looking clean. All right, so now I'm gonna get this dust seal. Same thing. Did it? Woo! Went in perfectly. All right. We're good. That is done. The book calls for about 500 cc's of fluid, which is, I believe, around 17 fluid ounces. This is 33 fluid ounces, so I'm gonna put half of this inside of this, and then we're gonna burp the air out, and then we're going to use a tool like this to suck the excess fluid out to set the height from the top to where the fluid is to 106 milliliters. 106 millimeters, from the top to where the fluid is. Sorry, I made that way more complicated. Basically, we're gonna set an air gap from the top to where the fluid is of 106 millimeters. Here goes nothing. I can hear it bubbling. We're going to pull up about right there, give or take. We'll put our hand on the top, and we're gonna force air. We're gonna add some pressure. And it's gonna help get some of that air out. I have this tool that I got from Motion Pro. It threads onto the damper, and it's gonna allow us to pull that damper up and down, so we can actually bleed it. So here we go. It's gonna thread on. Just like that. You don't have to use this, but when you're trying to pull that damper out, when it goes down into the bottom of the tube, allows you to get it out. Like that. I'll have to keep doing this a little bit, get this air out. Probably do it for about another 30 seconds. And then we're gonna put the spring in there and slap it all back together, man. But it's interesting though, look how it comes up. Then it goes down. It's harder to come up than it is to go down. Interesting. Suspension, man. Last thing we have to do is set this air gap. I have it set to 106 millimeters. That's pretty much the top of the fork. Yeah, we're pretty close. All right, so I'm gonna put that in there. And we're gonna shucky shuck, right? That's what she said. Oh, dang it. Wow, okay. I didn't have it fully drawn down. Crap. Darn it. Okay. Let's try that again. I might already have it where it needs to be. Might not have enough in there, actually. Might not have enough. Let's see. Your boy might not have enough. Which means I'm gonna temporarily bleed this again. We're gonna bleed it again. Make sure. Then we're gonna try it again. I think I actually have my air gap exactly where it needed to be. But you know, we still gonna pull the excess out. There we go. We're gonna get rid of the excess. We're gonna go back in one more time and we're gonna hit that. There we go. She's set. And like I said, she probably was exactly where it needed to be, but we still gonna do it the right way. All right, now we're gonna put this back in slowly. Put the spacer on top. Woo! She plopped. Ploppity plop. And I don't think this is directional. Pretty sure it's not directional. Put that in. All right. And now we're gonna have to pull that damper up. We're gonna get this rod, screw it on, pull the damper up, and then we're gonna put it back in the spring compressor and get this on there, tighten it down. Put this back on here. All right, put it back in there. I think this should line up pretty much where we had it. Yep, lines up. I can start cranking down on this thing a little bit. I might have should have had this already on that damper. We're gonna see. Take a screwdriver, actually, slide it down just a little bit, just to get a better bite on that damper. So I can't pull it all. All right, that's the highest the damper's gonna go. So I'm gonna have to crank down on this a little bit more. We're gonna hold this. I'm gonna put this collar back on here. And then we're gonna take this. All right, so I forgot about this part because I left the nut on, but there's supposed to be a gap between the nut and the cap. And it says it's supposed to be about, from here to here, about 17 millimeters. Because what they want you to do, they want you to bottom the cap out. And so when you get it to the bottom, when you bottom it out, meaning the threads are completely touching the inside of the cap, you're gonna feel a resistance point right there. That's the bottoming out point. You'll feel it catch. Because what they want you to do is to bring the nut up to the cap, not bring the cap down to the nut. So we're torquing the nut against the cap. So now that we've done that, we're gonna turn it like that. So now this is turning the cap, or rather bringing the nut up to the cap. And so we get to that point, I'm gonna torque it down, 12 foot-pounds. Honestly, probably get a good ugga-dug and it'll be good to go. And that's honestly probably good. That's good, that's seriously all that needs. And so what we're gonna do now, we're gonna move it down like that. And we're gonna release this spring slowly and close this thing up, man. Slowly release the tension off of it. And we're gonna put the cap back, screw the cap back on. We're good, man. We can put the fork back on, as long as it doesn't leak. The spring is jiggling a little bit in there, so I think we're probably good on tension. All right, there we go. All right, so we didn't change this O-ring up here. Honestly, it's probably fine. It would have came in a bushing set if we had a set. So, this is gonna be torqued down to 17 foot-pounds. I'm gonna give it a good ugga-dug. Not a lot of torque, because it wasn't really super torqued on. But I'm gonna make sure it's tight for sure. For sure. All right. And let's see. This ain't the prettiest of tools, but it got the freaking job done, and it kept that freaking spring from exploding in my face. Y'all gonna get a spot on my wall, man. Go in the box like that. It ain't the prettiest, but it worked. Let's get y'all on the wall. All right, these fools. They almost didn't make it on my wall because it took 5 freaking minutes just to get the damn paper off the damn thing. Anyway, Race Tech, they're on there. All right, so we got a good fork. Time to put this thing back on, but first we're gonna take a little swig of this Sam Adams. Delicioso. Let's get this thing on. This part's gonna be difficult to see, but I have my tool coming in from the top that I used to spread the triple, which is that oil seal puller. Let's see, I'm gonna have to bag it out a little bit. There we go. Just a little bit. There we go. And she goes. Come on. Spread it just a little bit. Come on. Oh, it was almost there. Oh no, we gotta, so yeah, I forgot. That's why I put that tape there. It lets me know how high I need to go. So, but also, careful, because I don't want to scratch the fender, because Indian decided to not put a freaking quick connect on this thing. I had to sit here and think about this for a minute because I couldn't remember how I got this tool in here the first time. But I remember now I was actually pretty much touching the radiator to get this in here, this oil seal puller. You got to get it in there and spread the jaws of that triple, and it allows you to go up. There we go. Now I'm at the top one. Felt it when it caught. Honestly, just had to put my back into it. And that's why I put that piece of tape there, because this is exactly where I took it off. Perfect. All right, see, now that I got that tape there, I can start pulling it off. But I can see it's a little tight. So I'm gonna come down just a little bit. All right, now I'm gonna pull it off. coming off perfect. So essentially that's exactly pretty much where it was. All right, we good, baby. Now we just need to tighten it down. So I'm gonna pull this out. Actually, I'm gonna tighten this. Actually, I can't. Pull that out. Tighten this up. She ain't gonna move, but we're still gonna start tightening this up. All right, so the way we're supposed to torque these down, we're just supposed to do the bottom of the lower first and then the top, and we basically go back and forth because as you tighten one, the other one gets tight or loose. So that's 19. I'll come back and do this. That's 19. I'm gonna check this one more time. See that? 19. 19. And then we're gonna do the top. All right, torqued. It's tight, but there is enough room to get in here to get this. All right, we're gonna leave that be. Ooh, now that does happen. Making sure we put this wheel speed sensor bolt back. I don't know the torque to this, but it's minor. All right, give us enough room for that. Cool. We got to do multiple things here. We're gonna have to clip this brake caliper, and I'm gonna have to try to clean up some of that gunk, because let's see, all the pads gunked up. I don't think the pads are, well, hold up. I don't think they're crazy gunked up. The caliper itself is. I'm gonna hit it with a little bit of brake clean. And we're gonna put this thing back. I think we'll be good. Yeah, that wasn't super terrible. Yeah, I think the pads are fine. So we're gonna mount this back in its place. This stupid fender, man. Why didn't Indian make this thing where this wouldn't be a problem? So this cable, I believe it sat on the inside like that. And I'm gonna put a zip tie back right there. And I'll do that in a second, as long as I got my routing correct. So the routing is correct. Move that out the way. Oh, you silly fender. There we go. Okay, one. Really, I just need to get one in here. All right, it was like this. I'm not gonna torque the brake caliper down yet, and the reason being is because that fork, it tends to put more load on the fork as you're trying to torque it down. I'm gonna wait till I put the wheel on. And when the caliper is mounted to the rotor. So now that we do that, we're gonna go ahead and get the wheel back on. I gotta get all this off before I start messing with this. Dude, how the heck did I do this? Okay. How on earth? Okay, I see what I did. Okay. I get all this out of the way. What I'm gonna do is put this down the back. Because the whole point of this, so we don't rub the back of this fender against this radiator. All right, now bring in our wheel. We can bring in the spacer. Don't want to forget that. And now we got to try to line this thing up. These brake calipers. So I'm gonna spread that one out. Yep. This one should fall in line. We got the wheel speed sensor. Come on. Get the brakes lined up. A little tricky. Not even trickier when that happens. Clean all that debris off. All right. Okay. Put that back. Dropped it again. What it is I get that, spread that brake caliper out just enough. There we go. Slide it. Push. Okay. Whoop. Bad work. All right. So now gotta lower the jacket just a little bit. All right. Gotta get this wheel speed sensor aligned. And now you can get the axle and lift up the wheel. Let's see, when I get the axle, we're gonna do the whole car trick. Lift it up. Ooh. All right. Okay. There we go. And now, lift the wheel just a little bit. All right. I made the amateur mistake of letting my microphone die, so what I'm doing here is bottoming the axle out, but I'm not going to torque it until the wheel is on the ground. Next was installing the front fender. This seems trivial, right? You put the bolts in there and it just lines up. But be very careful with this because they will cross thread. If you don't have the fender in its mounted position as you're threading those bolts in, they'll go in at an angle and it will cross thread them. So keep that in mind. On the left side of the bike, I got the front fender fully mounted. It wasn't tightened down at this point, but I would go back and do this later. But I'm also going to check the routing because some of these cables do get close to the suspension as it's actuating, and also it gets close to the brake pads and the rotor, so you want to make sure your routing is correct. I went back and clipped that zip tie and had a short little dialogue about wanting to cut this off flush. There is a tool for that. Maybe one day I will get it. Finally, I put the wheel on the ground and it will allow me to torque this appropriately. The front axle is torqued to 52 foot-pounds. Don't mind me. I did go over just a little bit, but 52 foot-pounds. Next are the two pinch bolts. These are each torqued down to 19 foot-pounds. On the Indian Chief, they do ask for you to put a little bit of a stretch because they're like torque to yield bolts, but I just went with the 19. I think I might have gone to 20, but yeah, 19 foot-pounds. Last but not least, the brake caliper. I did these at 35 foot-pounds. I alternated. I always like to start at the bottom and then go to the top and then just check them a couple of times afterwards, but 35 foot-pounds. I did forget to fully tighten these down, so I went back and gave each fender bolt a good snug. Nah, dude, I'm super goofy in this, but I did have a good time putting this thing back together, all things considered. Yeah. So he told me when he starts his bike cold, it throws a misfire. And he powers the bike off and back on, it doesn't do it. But I could hear it. It sounded like it was running off one cylinder. So the engine code's gone. Nope, it's back. Huh. That was so weird. I wonder if he's got a bad spark plug wire. Oh, I hate that pop. Oh my God, Indian, what the hell? The stupidest thing when the amp kicks. It's throwing a misfire code. Engine fire, cause reduced performance. But he said it goes away after like a couple of well, I'm gonna take it around the block because I gotta check the suspension anyway. This engine code's a weird one because the bike rides, but it did die on me. All right. That's weird. We're gonna have to figure that part out, what's going on with that. But he did say it was doing that before the tune, but there's no fluid coming out of this thing. So I'm gonna say the fluid, the seal change, the fluid, everything, that worked. Bike ride's great. We're gonna figure that misfire out though. But again, it was doing weird stuff like that before we did the Lloyd's tune. But there's something going on in there. I don't know if it's wiring, or if it's spark plugs or what, but yeah, something's weird. All right, so with that, I can say the fork seal and the fork fluid on that Challenger left fork is done. First time doing it, that Race Tech fork tool, it's a little crooked, but it got the job done. So I'll leave links down to everything in the description, and we are on to the next one. So as always, thanks for listening, thanks for watching. I hope you learned something about those forks and this bike, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.